everyone. I'm your host, Timbo Pham. Thanks for joining us tonight on Studio 41. Our show is inspired by the legacy of Edward R. Murrow and his in-depth coverage on public issues. Our reporters will work to bring the same coverage to you on current issues from the Washington State University campus and the Pullman community. We will send our reporters out to the field to get reactions from students and Pullman residents on the latest issues. And you will know by our team's dedication to asking even the toughest questions and reporting only the truth. Tonight we begin our show with a look at two prominent issues from overseas and here at home. 5 permanent members of the United Nations met to negotiate a draft resolution holding Syria to their pledge to put all chemical weapons under government control for destruction. Diplomats say the discussion brought up many differences over the draft. Earlier this month, controversy struck the United States when President Bashar al-Assad made a concerning comment in an interview on CBS this morning. Al-Assad warned that if Obama did decide to use military force on Syria, the U.S. should expect everything. Here in Pullman, the Liquor Control Board assigned a maximum of 3 recreational marijuana businesses to the city. The number of businesses assigned throughout the state is determined by population size, and the Pullman City Council plans to adopt a 6-month moratorium to delay establishments for any marijuana businesses during that time. Studio 41 wanted to find out what WSU students are saying about these two stories. Reporter Hagen Sandoval brings us our Man on the Street segment.
Thanks, Timbo. We're out here on Terrell Mall finding out how students feel about the conflict in Syria and their chemical weapons, as well as their reaction to 3 marijuana dispensaries assigned to the city of Pullman. Let's find out how they feel. I'm here with Callie Hare, who's a little confused on the mixed messages with the conflict in Syria. Can you go a little further into detail?
Yeah, I feel like in the address that the president gave on Tuesday, I was confused by sort of the circular argument he made, and that our decision hinges on Syria, but then he's also saying that he is willing to intervene, but then he also keeps saying no boots on the ground. And so as a citizen and as a viewer, I'm not quite sure where we stand on that.
Do you think action is necessary in Syria as far as the United States government? Should we interfere?
I honestly don't think we should really interfere. I guess for me, it's more of a perception of it's not really our business. But I guess what I'm seeing is that we're just trying to show the other countries how formidable we are militarily and politically. But I personally don't think that we really need to show countries how powerful we are, but unless we really need to show them.
I don't think that if we're not directly involved, that we should take at least like violence types of actions against them.
Where would you say that you would stand on the threats that Syria have made if we actually do use military action? Are you concerned for your safety?
No, I don't honestly think Syrian military is a huge threat to the U.S., but I also don't want to get involved in another overseas conflict.
I'm here with Bridget, who has some mixed feelings on this marijuana policy. Bridget, tell me about your feelings.
Well, I think 3 locations having access to marijuana is a little excessive for the small town of Pullman, and with so many college students around having access to it, I think it could really increase crime rates and drug charges in the city, and I think it's very concerning.
Currently in Pullman, we're going to have around 3 dispensaries for marijuana that'll actually be legal here in the state of Washington. How does that make you feel?
I think they have the legal right to, but I don't think it's good to encourage students to use them. So.
I don't think that Pullman needs 3. I'm a strong advocate for individual rights, so I'm not a youth myself, but I believe that people should have their rights, and it's been granted to them.
Is there any other feelings you have on this subject you want to share with us?
I didn't vote for that law. So.
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, if people want to do that in their own homes, it's fine with me. And obviously Pullman's getting more than normal because it's a college town and people enjoy marijuana here. So.
Well, thank you, Cynthia. That wraps up Man on the Street. I'm Hagen Sandoval. Back to you.
Washington State University reported that this year is the 2nd largest freshman class, but more importantly, it's the most diverse. The university says it plans to see the numbers continue to increase. Studio 41 reporter Aaron Osgood has the latest.
Washington State University prides itself on giving students a diverse experience when they come to Pullman. Part of that experience includes meeting new people from different cultures. In fact, the university announced that this year is the most diverse in enrollment. Director of Undergraduate Student Recruitment at WSU, Jocelyn DeYoung, says the university is excited about these enrollment numbers.
So if you look at total enrollment throughout the university system, so all campuses, Pullman, online, Spokane, Tri-Cities, Vancouver, we have the second largest institutional university enrollment that we've ever had. And so that's great for WSU. But what's really impressive is that this fall we brought in 33%, almost 34% of our freshman class were students of color, which is fantastic. And it increases and improves classroom experience, cultural diversity, obviously, and just more students that look like other students makes them feel more comfortable.
Total enrollment for the fall semester includes an increase in the diversity of WSU's student population, which means that nearly 1 in 4 students self-identifies as a student of color. Studio 41 wanted to find out what the increased diversity means for WSU. So, we met with J. Manuel Acevedo, the Director of Multicultural Student Services. He says the increase means that they are getting closer to the long-term goal of increasing the diversity on campus.
A different structure. I think the more diverse we are as an educational institution, all the students have the benefit to connect with each other, to learn about each other, to become not just tolerant, but to become knowledgeable, respectful, and excited about the various worldviews that the different students bring to the table.
Acevedo says they refer to the demographics of Washington State and aim to reflect the same diversity on campus. So the question is, where will students see the increase in diversity?
I think you're going to notice it at the rec center. I think you're going to notice it waiting in line at Subway, up at the Union Building, that sort of thing.
For Studio 41, this is Erin Osgood.
A beloved Washington State University alum was honored at a building dedication ceremony earlier this month. The building, formerly known as the Communication Edition, was renamed to commemorate Kathy Gertson's career at Como TV and her contributions to the Edward R. Murrow College of Communication. Gertson died last year after a long public battle with brain tumors. Her family attended the event and they spoke of Gertson's constant strength and positive attitude. Coming up after the break, I will be talking with the president of the Whitman County Landlord-Tenant Association about how student tenants can protect themselves from incidences like the Grove fire. Don't go away. The new apartment complex in Pullman called the Grove was all the rage for WSU students in off-campus housing. Last summer, while construction for the apartment buildings were still underway, 88 units went up in flames caused by arson. For students who signed their lease early with the Grove, they scrambled to find alternative housing until their new homes were rebuilt. Many began the school year living in hotel rooms or vacant rooms at the residence halls on campus. Tonight, I'm here with Eileen McCall, the president of the Whitman County Landlord-Tenant Association. We will be discussing how students currently living in apartments can legally protect themselves in the event of a disaster like the fire at the Grove. Thanks for joining us, Eileen.
Well, thank you, Tim, and thank you for inviting me here to help launch Studio 41.
Yeah, thank you. So can you tell me a little bit about what the Whitman County Landlord-Tenant Association does?
The Whitman County Landlord-Tenant Association is a professional organization. We have about 28 active members at this time. We are comprised of landlords, property managers, insurance professionals, and others that have a keen interest in the welfare of the rental housing industry in this community.
And I understand you're the president. Tell me what that all entails, being president.
I enjoy leading a great team. I have a treasurer and a secretary and a vice president, and quite frankly, they do most of the heavy lifting, and I have the opportunity to come and speak with you.
What would you say is the most important thing students and tenants can do to legally protect themselves after a fire or any kind of flood or disaster happens?
The most important thing, and I hope I don't sound like a salesman here, but the most important thing they can do is to have renter's insurance. It's very, very inexpensive. And some renter's insurance policies can be attached to your auto insurance policies. It's very inexpensive. I think it runs about $100 to $125 per year. And that will cover your expenses in case of a loss of fire or flood or some natural disaster. If a pipe breaks and your apartment gets flooded and you need a new computer, your renter's insurance will cover that. Renter's insurance is the #1 thing you can do to protect yourself. And of course, always read your lease and make sure you understand exactly what's going on there and have good communications with your landlord in the event of something, disastrous happen.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point. Reading your lease and the fine print is, I think, something that a lot of tenants forget to do, and they should probably spend some more time doing. A lot of times it doesn't. Would you say no leases include renter's insurance, or do some?
Some do. Some landlords and property management companies are beginning to require renter's insurance, and it really protects everyone, and it's an absolute necessity. especially in a student situation, you need to keep running. You need to keep on the ball. You can't have your electronics get destroyed by something, or if they get stolen, I mean, you got to be able to replace your stuff right away and get back on track with your school.
Are there some common things that tenants tend not to do that they should be doing to protect themselves in the event of a fire like at the Grove?
Well, I think you said it, Tim. The number one thing is to be familiar with what is on that lease and how to communicate with your landlord or your property management company. I know there was a great deal of frustration and confusion with the Grove situation that was really unfortunate. But know those phone numbers, know when to contact your landlord. If you have questions, contact them. They would much rather hear from you than not hear from you, and help sort out any problems before they occur.
And I noticed on your website there's a link that actually shows the current vacancies in the Pullman area. Has it always been there, or was that posted in response to the fire at the Grove?
It was definitely posted in response to the fire at the Grove. We don't, like I said, we consider ourselves an educational organization and a professional organization, not necessarily primarily for advertising, but this seemed to be a real need that people were asking for, is where can they find quality housing, good, safe quality housing in the event of this tragedy that happened. And so we posted those vacancies on there, we were updating it, so people can find housing in a timely manner.
What is the different standards among the different apartment complexes, or does it just vary?
That's a difficult question, but it's the one I'm glad you asked. If you look in your lease, you will probably find, I have an example of one here, you will probably find a risk of loss paragraph in your lease, and it will have words to the effect of that if the premises is utterly destroyed, your lease becomes null and void. It cancels your lease.
Can you tell us how fire codes vary from house to house or apartment or fraternity or sorority or residence hall? Is it the same in the city of Pullman? Is fire codes pretty standard across the board?
Fire codes are very consistent, and the best place to get information about fire codes is obviously call the fire department, and they can walk you through that, and those guys are great, and they can tell you exactly what is required for your particular type of housing, and they can even come and do an inspection of your housing if you're uncertain about where you are or what your exit procedures might be. They'll help you out with that. They'd be more than happy to do that.
And we looked at the goals of the association, and it's to be a resource, and I think that's really great for students. And like we talked about, it's preparing students, to be good future residents.
It absolutely is, and please go to our website. We have links to a lot of good publications that are available in plain language that explain the landlord-tenant situation, and we can help you out, ask questions, and we're there to help.
Thanks for joining us today, Eileen. I appreciate it.
And thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me.
You can find more information about the Whitman County Landlord-Tenant Association at www.wclta.com. We will be right back after the break. That's all for tonight on Studio 41. You can keep up to date with our show on Twitter by following Studio41_Cable 8. Thanks for tuning in. Good night and go Cougs.
Good night and good luck.